Radical Radio Collective.
4ZZZ. Good afternoon, listeners. You're tuned into Eco Radio on 4ZZZ. And my name is Zack, and my pronouns are he, they. And I want to start off by acknowledging and paying my respects to the custodian on the country on which we broadcast. We are located in the city Magangin on Turrbal Yagara Ugarapul land. I also want to pay my respects to the Quandamooka people. And this is a very, very chaotic start to Eco Radio, as I have been a bit, just a bit chaotic, as I said. Today on the program, we're going to be having a chat with Kirstiana Ward from the Environmental Defenders Office, located here in Brisbane, as their funding from the state government was recently cut, despite the fact that they had a pretty strong promise beforehand that they would not have that cut. We're going to be having a chat with Kirstiana. It's just me in the studio today, so no Dave. But on the line with me, I have Kirstiana Ward from the Environmental Defenders Office. How are you doing today, Kirstiana?
I'm well, thank you.
So I think the place to start with is, could you give an overview of what the Environmental Defenders Office does?
Thank you. In Queensland, we are across Australia, we're community legal centres that provide free legal services to vulnerable people in the community, so people who live remotely, regionally, who are impeded by a financial barrier from being able to seek access to justice in ways to protect and conserve their environment.
And could you highlight some of the notable events that the Environmental Defenders Office has been involved in?
Well, there's many. We range from doing core delivery grassroots community legal centre work on the ground. We undertake significant law reform projects. We sit as recognised stakeholders in many groups with NGOs and government and alike. We've recently been on a wonderful journey with Bob Irwin and the Community Representation of Crocodiles group, where we delved into the issues facing public safety and coexistence with crocodiles in North Queensland. We were able to really come to a point where we understood that we need to manage human behaviours and that there were limitations in the nature conservation laws in Queensland from being able to manage human behaviour in crocodile habitat. And when those interactions occur, the outcome is that the crocodile is likely to be removed from the wild. And we flipped it onto getting legislation passed last year on how to properly manage what we can do to improve and support public safety, such as don't leave fish scraps and alike or rubbish at boat ramps and camping grounds. Unintentionally feeding crocodiles, because that leads them to habituate to certain locations where people are and can increase the risk of any kind of interaction. In the Springbrook matter, we've been able to get some excellent conditionings regarding the water extractions from there. We have recently been working with the government on breaches to spoil ponds at the failed Hinchinbrook Resort just outside of Cardwell. That's an environmental disaster that's been enduring since the 90s, that we've been working with our client Ken Parker since then. Actually, I think that was our first actual matter in the North Queensland practice here many, many years ago. And it was through us having those local connections with the community, them being able to walk on country, see what's going on with their country, inform us. We can engage and have our science team interrogate issues, and then we were actually able to meet with the Department of Environment and Science and actually help their scientists understand how to identify and diagnose what the environmental harm and contaminations were occurring, because the spoil ponds had breached. Acid sulphate, was leaching out into the Girramay National Park and into the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park, including dugong habitats, turtle habitats, seagrass habitats. So releasing those really toxic acid sulfates that go out and destroy water quality for the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park. And through that, they were able to issue an environmental protection order onto the liquidator to remediate and clean up the contamination sites.
So speaking of the government, recently the Queensland government cut its funding towards the Environmental Defenders Office despite a pre-election promise that it would continue funding. Has there been a reason that they've provided, or is there anything that you suspect, I suppose, for having this funding cut?
Well, we were given those assurances last year. They were given to a room of all the conservation councils, the regional councils and other membership groups that collectively work in collaboration across the state to support and improve environmental outcomes, and often working very closely with government to do that. We were not included in the Community Legal Centre funding through the Department of Justice, unfortunately, so that has denied us a 5-year funding agreement, which is standard for the community legal centres in Queensland, noting that community legal centres are the basis of an equitable and just society. We have community legal centres that are there to support a variety and a range of needs for vulnerable Queenslanders, and we are the only community legal centre for the environment in Queensland. So when we sat outside that funding round, we were still hopeful that the Minister Powell's office and the Department of Environment and Science would continue funding for a solicitor both here in Gimoy and Cairns, and also in Meanjin, Brisbane. We were advised at a ministerial roundtable by Minister Powell a couple of weeks ago that funding was he was unaware, that the government was unaware at the time that the statements were made that we had limited life funding. But as far as I'm aware, all in this space, all funding agreements are fixed term. And so that's left us now without the funding to provide these very important, highly needed legal services and check and balance systems in place, which really do robustly assist the government to be making strong, sound environmental decisions.
Along with the axing of the mining objection process earlier this year, it doesn't exactly send a positive message around the Queensland government's ecological protection, does it? Well,
I understand everybody's concerns. We are being regularly communicated that is a concern that is being shared across the conservation and the community sectors. Yeah.
How will this affect the EDO's operations in the future?
Well, at the moment we are really hoping and needing for private donors and philanthropy to help support these services, because without this funding we can't deliver the over 1,000 services we have provided to vulnerable Queenslanders over the last 5 years. And given remote and regional locations, there's not a lot of opportunities, even if the money side isn't a barrier to justice. Most people will be conflicted out because smaller centres, generally you've got the councils, etc., working with the developers and the project managers and the proponents. So, I don't know. We really are just looking out externally and trying to work out how we can possibly continue to deliver some. We won't be able to deliver all, but how we can continue to deliver some of these core legal community services.
Yeah, so if you are listening out there and you do have a stack of money with you at the moment, please consider sending it to the Environmental Defenders Office. Additionally, there's been, surrounding the recent federal election, there's been a concerning lack of environmental policy discourse surrounding it. It's sort of like taking ecological issues taking a bit of a, are they in the background at the moment for a lot of people, and there's not as much attention being paid attention?
I think communities and the wider Australians are becoming much more aware of how vulnerable and how vital our nature and it supports our life, and we can't exist without a healthy environment. And so I do think it is in people's minds, but you're always going to have that tension between business and environment, resources and assets versus values. Obviously, we stand by that the environment is a value in and of itself and should be respected and treated as such and protected and conserved. But you're going to always have tensions between business and development and the environment. But EDO is here to provide its services to make sure that those projects are as environmentally sound and managed in appropriate ways to mitigate and respond to any kind of appropriate developments or proposals sitting contained inside.
Yeah. So I do think you're correct in saying that people are more concerned about the environment. It's just been particularly with the politics side of things that they haven't paid as much attention to it as they probably should be, unfortunately.
That's right. And look, at Commonwealth level, we've had the EPBC Act reforms and the Samuels report recommendations that have been sitting there since, the last election, and we are working very steadily and proactively and in that space with communities and NGOs and relevant stakeholders in the government to move those recommendations forward. So watch this space. Yes.
What is, speaking of watch this space, what is next for the EDO?
Well, there's many different ways that the EDO works. We are looking at responding to climate change mitigation, climate change adaptation, reduction of land clearing, protecting threatened species. The Labor government came out and said, no more extinctions. So that, and that aligns with us. We are here looking at how we can help shape the legal framework for the environment in Australia so that everybody can be working in a sound and ecological system where all of the environment is supported and protected.
So the EDO is a not-for-profit organisation, and as you discussed, you really are going to be relying on philanthropy and non-governmental funding at the moment. How can people support it?
We have we have a web page and Facebook page, and there's a donate button. I believe we have one donor that has very generously come out and said that they will match donations up to $150,000, and that we've had some great responses from that. So we're still remaining very positive. Charities and NGOs are often at the whim and swings around of election cycles, and we have survived them before. We've also the EDO Cairns office was shut down during the last Newman government because the funding had been removed, and we weren't resilient enough to be able to continue on during those times. And then we rebuilt again post 2017 when the Palaszczuk government reinstated funding. So it's just about making sure that we still have capacity, we still have boots on the ground, and we're still invited to sit at the tables where the conversations need to be held, where you bring the voices from the region to government, understanding the complexities of that particular community and what the environmental impacts are and how they should be assessed.
I think even during the Newman administration, it probably isn't a lack of resilience on your behalf. Lots of areas are getting shafted during that time.
Yeah, and EDO, we had 8 offices around Australia. And then in 2017 and 18, 19, we all came together and merged into one organisation rather than independent operations. And that's made us more resilient to external pressures. But we are still vulnerable to, this is a state-based CLC. Queensland is a very vast, large state with many incredible environmental values and World Heritage areas that need to be protected and conserved. So, and some of the largest land clearing in the world is still continuing on. So the fear is that if we're not here, as a Queensland-based state community legal centre, well, where will people go to understand where their opportunities to participate in the legal process? Where will they go for that information? And we'll continue to do our very, very best, but it just won't be able to be done with the level of staffing that we've had. And it's really only a few staff, let's be honest. It's really only a team of about 4 people that continue to produce that amount of support throughout the communities.
Yeah, well, I think that's certainly quite remarkable, the amount of work you have been able to complete with such a small staff as you've described. Did you want to add anything else, Kirstiana?
I just want to say thank you for, again, elevating this conversation. We understand that people are going to be and are upset by these decisions and how it might impact them, but just to keep calling us, to keep reaching out, because we will endeavour to do what we can, capacity finding us, obviously, but please continue to reach out to us.
Yeah, so please do head to the Environmental Defenders Office. If you do want to support them in any capacity, I'm sure they will appreciate anything that you guys can get at the moment.
The weekly dose of science on 4ZZZ is now available as a podcast.
I learned that you can hear the difference between different water temperatures when they're poured. I'm going to pour one after the other into a different glass, and you have to tell me which one is which temperature. I've got a hot and a cold. Right, here's the first one. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm saying cold.
It sounds cool, yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Here's the second one. Well played.
Shut up.
Search No Idea 4ZZZ on your favourite podcasting app. That's spelled KNOW, like no idea. It's a visual pun on an audio platform. I don't know why we did it. The weekly dose of science on 4ZZZ is now available.
The radio of the future.
You are listening to Eco Radio, the radio of the future. Thank you for that one, small child. We just heard from Richie Blackmore's Rainbow with their song Catch the Rainbow. I do like a good melancholic rock song sometimes, and that one definitely hits the spot for me when I'm feeling it. If you want to support 4ZZZ, you can head over to 4ZZZ.org.au/support. You can subscribe for as little as $25 for a pet or an under 18-year-old, or you can subscribe for an $80 for a full amount, or if you want to be passionate, subscribe for $140. You get a cool tote bag and a t-shirt with that one as well, all locally made. And if you want to be a real big supporter, you can subscribe for the full $500, make all the lights in the building go off, and get your name up on the wall downstairs. There's a few other options other than that for like bands, businesses, households. So please head to the website if you want to support 4ZZZ. And in fact, if you subscribe this month, you can enter the draw to win a voucher valued at $264 for Round Table Coffee. Who doesn't love coffee? And $264 worth of coffee will get you a long way. I have no idea if you could consider it a year's worth of coffee, but I suppose that depends on the rate at which you consume coffee. But you'll get pretty close to it, at least, judging by my coffee habits at least. But yeah, subscribe to 4ZZZ. They're cool. We need more money. I am a volunteer. I do not get paid to shill like this. But I think it's important to have a community radio station, purely because it's a good way to disseminate information within the community. And you can get anyone coming on here to talk about things that are bothering them with a number of different areas. So please do consider, if you want to make sure that 4ZZZ remains on the air. I believe it costs about $70 an hour to keep up, which is not a small chunk of money by any means. You're tuned into Eco Radio on 4ZZZ. I don't really have too much to say today, but I do think there is one thing that some people may appreciate hearing. For one of my assignments at uni, I did it on like a spoof radio interview, and for that I came up with some imaginary band names and songs, because that they kind of just wanted complete originality with that. And so the band name I came up with was Horse Lobotomy, and they had a song called Every Time You Do Ketamine, a Horse Goes Into Surgery Awake, which was... yeah, I was pretty proud of that one. And then I had another one that was Catfish Apocalypse with a song, The Mother of the Fishes. My housemate seemed to really appreciate that, and when I was having my spoof radio interview, I hadn't told the person I was interviewing those names, and they really had to try and giggle, had to try to not giggle when I said it out loud. But yeah, that's the important news I had regarding eco radio related things. You were tuned into 4ZZZ, and this is Eco Radio. It's been quite an intensive song one today. I haven't had too much to say, especially being here by myself, because then I end up monologuing for too long, and that is neither good for me, neither is it good for you guys to listen to. But up next, we will be doing a little thing we like to call the Bushcare Roundup.
It's a Bushcare Roundup. They've been pulling out weeds, and then they put in trees. It's the Bushcare Roundup.
So, on Thursday the 29th, from 7:30 till 9:30 a.m, there is the Lota Creek Habitat Group Bushcare Working Bee, and that one is at 44 Auvern Street, Lota. On Saturday the 31st, from 7:30 till 9:30, there is the Mookin-Bah Working Bee at 106 Greencamp Road, Wakerley. From 8:30 till 11 a.m, there is the Anstead Bushland Reserve Bushcare, and that one is out at Anstead Bushland Reserve in Anstead, surprisingly. Then from 3 till 4 p.m, there is the May Bushcare Working Bee at Corbie Street Park, Ashgrove. Then from 8 till 10 on Sunday the 31st, there is the Crosby Road Bushcare Working Bee at 12 Beatrice Terrace, Ascot. From 9 till 11 a.m, there is the Butterfly Bushcare at the Hilltop, and that one is at the Reservoir Track Carpark on Mount Coot-tha. From 3 till 5 p.m, there is the Extraordinary Kookaburra Bushcare, and that one is at Chamberlain Street, Tarragindi. And then from 3 till 5 again, there is a Springfield Bushcare Bridgewater Park, and that one, surprisingly, is at Bridgewater Park in Springfield. And that is it for Eco Radio today. We did just get a subscriber to Giri from Moore Park Beach, so thank you very much for subscribing, Giri. But yeah, that is it for Eco Radio today. We are going to have Jordan on next. They will be looking after you from 1 till 3 p.m. today. And they will be playing an interview, or they're going to be talking to Soccer Mummy. So please stick around for that one. But other than that, I hope you guys have a lovely rest of the week. It's starting to get a bit chilly, so make sure that you have your coats on. Stay home if you're sick. Being sick is incredibly unpleasant, and I always forget about that every time I do get sick, because clearly I don't get sick often enough. But to take you out, we're going to be listening to Vitamin C by Can. I always try to put a song that I think will impress Jordan on last. And the drums in this song, very, very good. Take care. I'll see you next week.